the kids say, math is fun, I love math, this was so fun, time flies when we're doing math centers. They're really enjoying it, and time is really flying. I know that for me too. An hour could go so quickly.
My name is Kim James, and I teach kindergarten. I love it. It gives me that chance. When you have a classroom full of kids, it's so important to make those individual connections, really know where they're at, where their cognitive ability is, and to get to know them personal, because you're making connections with them. When they're in guided reading, I ask them about their experiences, so I'm getting to know them as an individual. And that really helps with the rapport, and it makes it a learning environment instead of a classroom. I think for the students, it's more of a self-directed learning experience. They're completely engaged when they're in a UDL experience. They're not just sitting and listening to me. It's not a teacher versus the students. It's more that they're engaged and I'm facilitating that learning. I'm kind of guiding them, and if they go a little off track, then you might have to set them, get them going the right direction. But I do feel that they're so excited about it and they feel like they're in charge of the learning. It's very empowering for the students and for myself. So today my students are participating in literacy centers. This is a time that we have every day, and it's a time when the kids are just having exposure to the written word in different forms. So I group them according to skill level. The reason I do this is because this is the time during the day when I can really focus on those kids' individual needs. So it all depends on where they're at. When I'm planning for the centers, I change the plans according to the group and what that group is at. Okay, so I have a total of 9 literacy centers. I keep the groups really small, from 2 to 3 students. And every day there's a group working with me in a guided reading experience, and then there's another group working with my instructional aide doing some kind of writing response. So I'm looking for different sensory experiences for the students. That way I'm addressing different learning styles. So you'll see the listening center, and the students here are listening to the book, Iris Says Goodbye. And so they're listening to the book, following along with the story, and then after they're finished listening to it, they're writing a reading response. And this response is they're going through the book and picking out words that they can read on their own. After they pick out the words and write them down, they also draw a picture of their favorite part. When they're finished, they come to me, and that's a form of assessment for me, because I need them to read the words back to me. So if they're just copying words, I'm looking for them to actually read them back to me. I'm also looking for comprehension. What it was the favorite part of your story? Are they including character names and setting and what happened, the plot of the story? So this is a great, wonderful way to differentiate, because some students are just learning their sight words. So if they're writing down their sight words and reading those to me, that's wonderful. Other of my higher students are writing down words that are fantastic or wonderful, and if they're able to read those, they're challenging themselves and writing down those words.
My name is Gina Ledford, and I teach 2nd grade. The greatest impact that UDL has had on our students with these math groups and these centers is we're really being able to individualize their learning, and then they have choices. When they're in groups, they can work on different activities, they're self-assessing, they're making those choices, and they're growing themselves as a learner and really taking responsibility for their learning. And that just engagement comes from that, because they're excited about it, because they made the choices. I've noticed they're completely engaged during that center time. Okay, we're going to be seeing a short whole group lesson, a math lesson on tangrams. We've been studying shapes and geometry. We are breaking into 4 groups after the teacher-led lesson. The students will meet in small groups with myself and the other 2nd grade teacher. And then there'll be a game group where they'll be working with shapes and putting them in Venn diagrams. There'll be an independent group working on fluency, addition and subtraction fluency. And then there'll be an independent group where, when they're done working with the teacher, if they need more teacher time, either high or low, they'll sit a little longer with us and go over what they need to go over. Our groups are based on level. They're leveled groups. And then they take assessments and we level them according to their assessments. That way we can take the high group and continue on and accelerate their lesson. And the low group we can slow down a little bit and give them the time that they need. I make learning intentions clear for the students. At the beginning of the lesson, we go over a target on the smartboard, the target for the lesson, and we read the target, what are we going to learn today, and then we discuss it. At first I was a little scared of it because I thought I'm letting them just have this time to do what they want, but I've really noticed that they're grasping and they're just choosing the activity, and from there they're learning more than if I just sat and talked to them. They were sitting for an hour, they would be zoning me out. They would be checking out of the conversation, but instead they're in complete engagement. And because we're shifting every about 15 minutes, it switches up. They get to get up, they get to move, they get to do something else, and then they re-engage quickly. We are using the centers strategy and breaking them into small groups in reading, language arts, and in math.
So the way I make the learning intentions clear is when we're starting a new center rotation, what I do is I take some time to go over what I expect out of each center. A lot of times there's an example for the students to see. A lot of times it's something that they've already been doing, but I've just changed the story. So they kind of have something and they're using some scaffolding to build on what they've already done. What I find with the learning intentions is that sometimes if things aren't going the way I had intended, then I don't address it right after the learning center, I address it the following day. And before we get started, I'll say, oh, I was noticing that at the listening center we were having a hard time, so this is what I would like us to do today. And what that does is it gives them some inspiration, and I tell them that I'm going to look for that, and that if I do catch them doing that, they get to clip up or get some kind of motivation reward.